Namaste and welcome to part 4 of Flutter Appwrite tutorial series. Thank you all for providing huge support in my previous videos regarding Flutter and Appwrite. In this episode, we are going to work on our authentication state so that our users will be able to sign up and log in. So, to continue with this tutorial, first you need to make sure that your Appwrite server instance is running in Docker. To make sure that it is running in Docker, you can check if your Docker instance is running or not by just using docker ps command. So this will list all of your Docker containers that are running. So you can see all of the Appwrite images instance are running in my case. So if it is not running, what you can do is you can go back to our previous tutorial folder in the first part where we set up Appwrite, and in that folder you can see there is so in that folder you'll find Appwrite folder. If you cd into Appwrite folder, there is docker compose.yml file. So if your container is not running, you can just do docker compose up-d. So this will start all of your required containers in background as a daemon. So for me, as the containers are already running, I can just continue with the Flutter. So what we would like to do in this part is create Autistic and hook it up with our login and sign up form so that our users will be able to log in and sign up. So first, let's create Autistic. Okay. Inside Autistic, first import Appwrite. Okay. We are importing Appwrite and we need to create new client. This is Appwrite client. Okay. And for authentications, if we go through the Appwrite API, we know that we need account. And let's create constructor. And in here, we need to set up our client and account so that we can connect it with our Appwrite project. So to do that, first, let me go to live and create another folder. So inside live, let's create core folder. In here, let's create res, that is resources folder, and in there I'd like to create app constants folder. Okay. So this will hold our certain constants that is required by our application. And for constants, I like to use class with static properties. So and right now we need just two things. One is project ID. Next is endpoint. Okay, we need project ID and endpoint. Both of them are string. So where to get this project ID and endpoint? So if you remember, we set up our Appwrite server in 4003 in our first tutorial. So go to your localhost :4003, log in, and in the console tap on your project that we created. In here, if you go to settings, there you can find both the project ID and the endpoint. So let's copy the project ID. Okay, next also let us copy the endpoint. Okay, now we have both the project ID and endpoint. However, we are running an emulator, and if we use localhost, our emulator will connect to localhost of the emulator itself, but not our computer. So in order to translate this localhost of my computer from emulator in Android, it's fairly easy. Just use, instead of localhost, use 10.0.2.2. So instead of localhost, use this IP so that this will proxy into localhost from emulator. Now we have our project ID, we have our endpoint. Let's create a method called init and call it from Autistic. Init. In here, we'll create new instances. We'll set up client and create instance for account. So client dot set endpoint So we'll use our app constants dot set project constants dot project ID, right? Next, account should be created with a instance of the client. All right, now we'll first add login function. So let's create a login function. Login will require email, and this will be a async function. So in login, let's use try catch exception. Not var. So create session. So Appwrite uses create session, provides us create session function to log in the user. So with create session, we just need to pass email, password. Yeah. For now, we'll just print our result. All right. We have the create session, and in catch here also we'll just print our error. So we have our login function. Now all we need to do is hook up this login function in our login page. So let's go to pages, login.dart that we created in previous tutorial. So first we just have, what we have here is we have our login button, we have text field for email and password. However, we have no way of getting the text entered in this text field. So for that, we'll use controllers. Text editing controller, email is new text editing controller, same. Okay, we have the controllers. Let's assign email and password controller. So we now have both the email and password controller assigned. In onPressed, we can call the login function. So what we can do is on press Autistic state. Okay, so I missed one step. So what we need to do is we created our auth state. It's a instance of change notifier. So we are using provider as a state management solution. So what we need to do is we need to provide our auth state. So let us go to our core folder first, and in core folder let's create presentation folder, and in here I'd like to create providers notifiers, and in there let's create providers.file. So in provider.file let us create a list of our providers. Single child visit providers is equals to change notifier provider create auth state. So we need to import all of these, import, and in create it takes a function, not auth with context. Okay, so we now have our list of providers. We need to provide it in our main.dart file. So let's open main.dart file. In here let us wrap this. So wrap with visit multi-provider. Providers will be providers that will be imported from our core providers file. Okay, we now have providers, and instead of sign up page I'd like to use login page here. Okay, and in login page now what we can do is for auth state provider of false. So auth state, so we are getting this provider in a button press, so we need to use listen equals to false, otherwise this will give us an error. So we now have our state, so we can simply call dot login and pass in our email dot text password dot text. Okay, we can pass in our, so we'll do all the verification and validation in next episode, so that empty email and password are not allowed, so that kind of validations will be done later. Right now we just want to see if we can log in. So let me hot restart. So we have provided our provider and bunch of stuffs have changed, so let me hot restart. Okay, let me open up debug console so that we can see our print. If you remember, in the first episode where we set up Appwrite, we created a test account so that we can use that test account to log in. Let's tap login. Okay, so if you get this kind of output like me, so you'll get an ID, that is session ID, type, and expiry time for our session, then you have successfully created a session for your user, that is your user was able to log in successfully. So if you do not get something like this, then maybe you are using the wrong username and wrong email and password. Okay, so now our user is able to log in. Next, let's test our sign up. Let's set up our sign up page. For that, in auth state, let us first create sign up function. So in auth state, hide this, login, and here another function, create account. Here will require name, email, and password, and same as our login, print error, and in here let's make this async function and await account dot create. So instead of create session, this time we use create, and in here we'll pass email, password, and name for creating, and we'll print the result again. So as simple as this, we just call a create function from account. We pass in our email, password, and name provided by the user. Then we should be able to create a new user with those credentials. Now we need to hook these functions in our signup.dart file like we did for our login.dart file. Okay, so again in signup.dart file, let me copy the text controllers from here because we have the same fields, email and password. So copy from login.dart, and in signup.dart, let me paste it finally. So name field as well. So in the name field, controller name, and email field email, and in password field password. Now with this we can access the email, password, and name provided by the user. Again here we'll do the same things. Autistic state provider false Autistic. Okay, we now have the state, and we simply call dot create account. We pass in name, name.text, email.text, password.text. Okay, so this should simply allow us to create new account for our users. So in main.dart, let me just change this login page to sign up page. Now we have our sign up page. Let me hot restart just to be safe, and let me bring up the debug console. So here let's create another user, test2 at testme.com. Let's use test3 to be safe. Maybe I have used this is name, another test, email, test3 at .com. Let's use simple password, and let's clear the console, hit sign up. Okay, so after you hit the sign up, you should get this kind of result. So you'll get back the user that was created with ID, email we supplied, registration date, name, roles. So by default these roles are assigned to the user. So now our user is able to log in and sign up. The next function we'll create will help us in the next stage. That is, we would like to check in the starting of the app, we'd like to check if the user is already logged in. So if the user is already logged in, we'd like to go to home page. If not, we'd like to show the login page. So to do that, in our auth state, we'll create another function called check logged in. For now, we'll just print the result whether or not the user is already logged in. and in init we'll call check is logged in, and here again try print error. Okay, and here account.get. So when we run account.get, if the user is logged in, then we should get the logged in user's account, otherwise we should get error. So we have already logged in because while doing the login part we have logged in. So let me just hot restart so that this function is called and we can see the result. So hot restart. Okay, so we are not seeing this result because provider from I think from 4.0 or 3.2, what it does is it's lazy. That means it will not create your provider until and unless you use it for the first time. So in order to solve that, what you can just do is in here say put lazy false. So if you put this lazy false, then your provider will be created as soon as it's assigned. So let me hot restart now. This should call our login function, and sure and certain we get the user ID of our test@testme.com. So this is what we used previously while checking our login function. So we are successfully logged in. We can also check that here in Appwrite. So in Appwrite, if you go to users and you have this test user test@testme.com, and if you go to activity or devices, you can see here on device this we are logged in. So let me log out and then again run hot restart this. So we should not get this account after this. So if we hot restart this, we should run into some exception. Yeah, so we surely run into some exception. If we continue this, we get HTTP status error 401, that is unauthorized. So we were unable to get the account of the current user. So this concludes our episode 4. Thank you everyone for watching this tutorial. So in the next episode, we will continue on and maybe hook up some states here so that we can check whether user is logged in, and we can navigate users from sign up and login screen. Will create a home page and bunch of stuff. So stay tuned for next episode.